Guys, I want to take a minute to welcome you to Keystrokes. Keystrokes is kind of an analogetic concept for me about how I found ways to rewrite my inner code, to interrupt the problems and the loops that I had in my life where I would respond a certain way to certain things over and over again, and it was just like a program loop. Um, so as I was really digging into this, I found that if I used concepts from countless sources that I won't name, because eventually I took everything that I found helpful and I rewrote it to serve my purpose, right? So it's like here's a huge 200-page book, and 8 pages out of that whole 200-page book I found that helped me, right? So that's what the Keystrokes program is about. It is introducing you guys the ideas that every person has an internal operating system, kind of like a computer, that's built from trauma, habits, survival patterns, um, and we live our life in these established patterns. Um, and so I took an analogy, right, of computer keystrokes. Like Control Alt Delete brings you to the task manager. What is chewing up space and in your head, in your heart, that doesn't need to be there, right? So each chapter of the book, and there's 23 chapters, right, has a keystroke, right, a metaphor for a mental health concept. And then I share some personal anecdotes into how that applies to that mental health concept. And then I give you some questions that you guys, if you answer, vulnerably and honestly, um, in the workbook, in the actual text itself, to help you do a deep dive in some self-analysis. Because let's face it, not all of us have time or money to go see a therapist, and most of us, at least in my experience, most people like to keep this stuff close to their vest. They like to keep it under their hat. Um, so um, this is my attempt, right, to address these things in a way that makes it approachable, to make it accessible. The format of the book is actually kind of interesting because it's not a whole bunch of winding paragraphs of psychobabble bullshit, right? Because I don't have a degree in psychology. All I have is hard-earned experience with each of these concepts. And I back tested and searched and did the legwork to find the concepts that will help people heal. Because at the end of the day, I just want to help people become better versions of themselves so that they're less likely to snap at their spouses, their kids, their employers, right? And they can live a more rounded life, a life that's in balance, right? And that's all I really want to do, right? And whether that's you're recovering from heartbreak, you have a significant injury, or any kind of trauma that twists your life in a direction you didn't want to be, and whether it happened all at once, like an injury or something, or it happened, one step at a time, and you just slowly wandered off the path, and you lost who you were, right? So I break it down into these series of analogies and metaphors to just kind of bring it back to being simple, right? Because computers talk in code, it's all ones and zeros. It helps to have something simplified. And this is a self-work project. It's one of those things you can do at your own pace. But the thing that got me really excited about this is that, once I, did all the research in the background and came out with this template, right? Because of this wonderful world of AI, we can backflow and backtest that stuff to make sure it's, you know, it works, that it makes sense. And I've got a couple of friends that do have their PhDs in psychology and counseling, and they thought, they didn't have any problems with what I said. So that being said, I want to introduce you guys to the Keystrokes project. So what it is it's a core metaphor using computer commands as emotional and psychological tools, just like keystrokes on the computer enable tools. And each keystroke represents a mind shift, a boundary that you can set, or a healing action that you can take. And it's not a tech book. It's a self-rebuilding manual disguised as a keyboard. Okay, so you look down at a computer keyboard and you see shift and enter and control and alt and function, right? This is something most of us see every day. So what I like about that is that as you're going through this process and you eventually sit down in front of a keyboard and you put your finger on the shift key, it helps you remember, oh, right, I read that in the book, talk about how to make a shift. It doesn't have to be a big shift, it can be a little shift. And it just helps to something that you can put your hands on every day that helps you remember, remind you, right, that everything's a process. So the reason I created this, right, is because I was forced into a very difficult situation. And on top of a very difficult situation, my life got obliterated in a completely different way. So on top of life-altering injury to my back, which for you guys that are just getting into this, I'm a 6'5", 300-pound or 300-plus-pound guy that used to just lift heavy stuff, right? Like I was the guy that you could count on to put a couple of 100 pounds under each arm and walk with it, right? I was physically capable of doing what some people would consider amazing things. I wasn't a power lifter. I just worked really hard. And I was not afraid of hard manual labor. But when I got this back injury, right, permanently limited to 15 pounds of lifting. I'm only supposed to sit for less than half of my day. I can stand for too long. After about 10 minutes, the bulging discs get to my nerves and my legs stop working the way they're supposed to. So I'll trip and fall if I'm not careful, if I stand up or walk for too long. And on top of all of that, right, I had this personal thing happen at the same time. My wife of nearly 15 years decided she wanted a divorce and she was going to take the kids. And she did and said all the things that she could do to make that a certainty. So on top of navigating physical restraint and stuff that I'm not used to, right? I'm not used to not being able to do stuff. My personal life was also destroyed, ripped to tatters. So I was forced to change the way that I do my life. Okay? There was no subtle, oh, let's find a new job. Let's find, figure out how to navigate the family court system, right? Because this is my quote unquote first divorce, hopefully my last, right? But I never had to do any of this stuff. And I have a very trusting, um, nature, right? I trust people till they give me a reason not to. And that is a stupid way to approach going to family court. To being honorable and taking the high road and all that stuff, it ate me alive. So a reboot was necessary so that I could become a little hardened in the heart a little bit more flexible in my physical and mental state. And all the stuff that goes with it, from being the home everyday dad to the Disneyland dad that gets his kids 24 nights a year, right? Like, I don't even get the cute little Friday, Saturday night thing. Like, I pick them up on Saturday morning and I have to give them back Sunday afternoon every other weekend. So to go from having my kids all the time and loving on them and being present in their lives, I get this very brief glimpse of their lives. And it doesn't go well most of the time. Or at least especially in the very beginning, it didn't go very well. And in fact, it went so poorly that I got locked into having to do 1 hour visitation with them. And because my daughters are so different in age, right? One was 13, the other one was 3 or 2, right? And this all happened when the youngest was roughly 10 months old, right? I had to establish a relationship with a child that didn't know me. She was nearly 3 years old before the first time she called me dad. And you want to talk about a heart-wrenching mind shift? It was brutal. And then the oldest child was very upset about how all that went down. But when you only get so much time, so little time with them, it is really hard to assure them that you have their back. So that is why I had to reboot and reset and rewrite my inner code, because my life was not even a shadow of what it was before all this happened. So I took notes. I read books. At the time, I had a 100 mile a day commute, so it was roughly an hour each way to drive to work. I devoured audiobooks and on all sorts of topics: co-parenting, surviving narcissistic abuse, how to rewrite your internal dialogue so that you can accept your new physical limitations. I mean, there was tons of books that I went through because I was just grabbing for whatever I could get my hands on that felt like it helped me. And I took notes. I had a recorder in the truck. I would press pause on the audiobook. Da-da-da-da, this makes sense. And then I would listen to it when I was at home or whatever, and took notes physically, because writing always helps. But yeah, it was a lot, all at the same time. And the divorce, the injury thing was happened at work, so there was all this workman's comp stuff, physical therapy, all of a sudden not being able to sleep at night. So 3 or 4 nights a week I wouldn't sleep. And then I got kind of turned into this broken mental zombie, and I was constantly just struggling with everything. But I had to be sharp because, you had to go to family court and deal with stuff. So it was all this stuff. But I took notes as I went through it. So that's why I created Keystrokes, okay? So it solves, for me, right, it solves a couple of things. It solves feeling, for a lot of people, I feel that it will help people that feel overwhelmed, stuck, frozen in old patterns. Traditional self-help stuff feels abstract or preachy. Keystrokes is very practical, visual, and it's grounded. It is written like computer code, right? So each concept is a sentence long. I mean, it makes the book kind of long the way that it's formatted, but I wanted each person to have a chance to resonate with each sentence, with each concept as it was presented. Because, like I said, a lot of those books were 200-something pages long, and only 3 of those pages helped me. And it might have done better if each concept or topic was presented in the way that I formatted Keystrokes. So if I'm working on getting on Amazon and doing the whole print on demand and stuff and all that stuff. But it is a PDF, so you can print it if you want to. And I would recommend printing the workbook. And I do offer an independent study workbook, which takes the same concepts and digs a little deeper into them. But it's a self-analysis thing, which puts everything on you, um, which I think is the best way to do it because it keeps you from having to be vulnerable with a therapist. And I don't know about a lot of guys, but we struggle with vulnerability in general. And to do it, and finding a therapist is like dating. I mean, guys, I don't know if some of you are like me are doing the dating thing in your 40s. It sucks. It's weird. And this gives you the opportunity to do the work at your own pace in the privacy of your own mind and your own heart to avoid all that potential shame and that comes with the dating therapist thing. So that again, the way it's formatted is a metaphor, a mental health construct, and then some practical steps to take, along with some questions that dive into helping you self-analyze what your issues are. Okay, I'll give you a couple of them. Control Alt Delete is about interrupting destructive loops. So that's the task manager, right? So, and for you guys to do the computer stuff, the computer starts getting slow, it gets buggy. Hit Control Alt Delete brings up the task manager, or you can restart the computer. Task manager will let you know, oh, I've got this running in the background. I've got this, this, and this. And you end those tasks, and then your computer frees up a whole bunch of RAM, a whole bunch of memory. Um, Kind of the same thing, right? What are you concentrating on that doesn't need to be there, right? Are you stuck in a negative shame loop with something in your past? Are you concentrating on things that you don't have any control over? Um, so it helps you identify where all that extra mental and emotional energy is going. And if you can break those loops, those habits, you'll find yourself more relaxed, less drained, because you're not wasting time on stuff you can't change or stuff that, you know, should be irrelevant to you in the moment. Okay? Shift, changing your perspective and emotional posture. Okay? So, I take the time to explain that sometimes learning how to change the way you do things is as simple as what you drink your coffee out of in the morning. And if you can change the coffee cup you drink your coffee out of in the morning, what else can you change? What other things in your life can you change to be a little bit more grounded, a little bit happier, a little bit less emotionally overloaded? It helps you discover what in your life needs to be shifted. Escape. Leaving situations that drain or diminish you. Okay? But here's the thing. The concept of escape isn't about running away. It's about breaking the pattern. So when you're stuck there at 2 o'clock in the morning and you can't sleep because your brain is just running through the same scenarios that may or may not happen over and over and over again, how do you escape that? Guess what? Time to get out of bed and let's go for a little drive, or let's go for a walk out in the cold winter air. Um, it's a pattern interrupt. And you get in the habit of, well, I can't sit here and do this all night. I've got shit to do tomorrow. So I'm going to escape this situation. And again, enter choosing how to step into the new chapters of your life with intention. So everybody has this concept is like, I'll do this when this is when it's ready. I'm going to do this when it's perfect, and then the perfect moment never comes because it never will. So being okay with imperfect execution, because imperfect execution is the only way you're going to move forward, and accepting the mistakes as they come. What could I have done differently? And once you're rolling forward, once you're moving forward, once you've entered the space of the new chapters of your life, you can pivot and make changes as you're moving. But it keeps you from being stuck in that analysis paralysis. Waiting for the perfect moment. You'll lose the most precious years of your life waiting for the perfect moment. Backspace. It's not delete, right? You can hit Control Z and get it back. But it's rewriting the narratives and releasing the old scripts and the old shame that's in your past. So realizing what happened in the past cannot be changed. But how do I backspace it? How do I respell that word? How do I correct that small mistake moving forward? Right? Because when you hit backspace, you're not deleting everything and there's nothingness, right? It's a correction. Now I know how to spell the word atrocious, and we move forward. Or you fix a punctuation mistake or a capitalization mistake or something because your fingers are moving faster than your fingers are moving faster on your keys than your brain is. It's not a permanent deletion. It is a temporarily fixed it, and now we move forward. And like I said, these are just a couple of them, but I wanted to share with you kind of like how it feels, right? What makes this different from other workbooks, self-help books, the formatting is really different from anything that I've ever seen. And I've read a lot, and I've got books everywhere, stacks of it. It is different, just the formatting alone. And like I said, I share some emotional stories with some structured exercises. It's designed for real people living real lives and people that don't have perfect routines. A lot of the chapters will start with the concept of it happened on a Tuesday. The sky wasn't falling. The laundry was still undone. It honors imperfection, neurodivergence. It honors trauma and nonlinear healing. Because let's face it, a lot of us, especially the guys in the group that are capable of that like emotional compartmentalization of their life, because we were taught that at an early age. Nobody cares. Work harder, right? You still have to care about it. You still have to work on it, but you have the ability to, in the moment, to have your world blowing up. You compartmentalize that, and then you still go to work. You still do what's necessary, and you find a way to do that. And then when in the cold, stone cold hours of the night when nobody's around, you bring that box back out and you start dealing with it. At least that's what we should be doing instead of, well, that'll just go in the basement. Well, basements eventually get full. And when the basement gets full, that means everything has to come out of the basement. So it'd be much easier to deal with these little compartmentalized problems day to day or week to week than having a complete mental breakdown in your 30s or 40s or 50s because you stuffed everything in the basement and now you have to deal with it all. And that's what non-linear healing is. The book is really for people who are rebuilding after heartbreak, injury, burnout, major life transitions. We've all... Pain is so relative. What you survived would have killed the man standing next to you. It would have brought the woman that you met at the grocery store to her knees. Somebody always has it worse than you do. Somebody always has it better than you do. Keep that in mind, but your pain is valid because of your life experience. The other people I wrote it for is people who are creative, parents, entrepreneurs, anyone who feels like they're just running on empty. Okay? Because if you're going through your entire life hanging on by your fingertips, it's not supposed to be that way. At least not for prolonged periods of time. And I presented it in a framework that feels empowering rather than overwhelming. And that's where those long paragraphs of all the psychoanalytic stuff really is hard to follow. And like I said, the delivery on this is so precise. I mean, it's the difference between like a shotgun blast and a sniper rifle. You get the opportunity to literally select the stuff that helps you and keep moving forward. I want to take a minute to tell you guys the decisions and the layouts, design process, and stuff for this was hard for me. There were so many days where I had tears running down my face because I was sharing a very powerful story, and but I had to keep pushing through, or my back was hurting because I spent 6 hours in the computer chair to pump out 2 or 3 chapters, or to get first drafts going. Um, it was hard. Um, and again, this at the end of the day, right? This is my first attempt at this, and I was really proud of how it turned out. Um, what the readers are going to get out of it is clarity about their patterns, your patterns, and your emotional triggers. A sense of agency and control over your own internal systems. I fill the book with practical exercises that translate into real world change for your life. A feeling of being seen and understood and supported. So at the end of the day, right, you guys get this book and you go to the stand store and you see that there's the Broken But Built community, and it costs like $5 a month. Yes, part of it of all of this is, of course, is to help me financially, because I have this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Is I want to help people through platforms like this. But the being seen and understood and supported through these communities, that's why I built the space for these communities. And if you can't afford the $5 a month, send me a DM and I'll waive it for you. I mean, seriously. I want everybody to feel supported, because I remember times in my life where I had no one to support me. I had times in my life where I had family members that did things to me that I can't explain what I did to deserve what they did. But it happened anyways. I was married and had no support. I was alone and had no support. And I want people to feel supported in their action. Because at the end of the day, I just want to help people. So here's the call to action. I want you guys to rebuild your lives, your personal brand for you, whatever that looks like. Your internal operating system. I want you to find out who you are. Because I don't know about everybody, but I know that along the terms of my life, I lost who I was. I used to be this very artistic, creative person who used to laugh and have fun, and I haven't seen that guy in a long fucking time. And I know that when you're in, relationships and stuff, like, you give stuff up for your family, you suffer for your children, but it shouldn't come at the cost of who you are. So I encourage you to make the commitment to buy the book. The first workbook comes with it for free. It's $20. So here's the thought in my head, right? Is you guys buy the Keystrokes book with the workbook, you get one of the t-shirts, and the reason for that is I want you to wear the t-shirt underneath all your other clothes. As that little reminder is that you're working on you. And you don't have to show it to everybody, but it's always with you. And if you're feeling bold, buy a hat and wear it on your head and advertise it to everybody. That's great for me too. And great for you too. But buy the book, go through the process to go through the workbook. If you feel empowered, you feel like there was something that you could take away from it, get the independent study workbook. The format's a little different, but the questions and the concepts are still there. And in closing, I just want you guys to remember that you're not broken. You're reprogrammable. You're fixable. You can do anything if you feel like you're supported. You can do anything if you show up. And I want you guys to be the best versions of yourself. And if this book helps, please say something about it. Share it with somebody. Share it with 10 somebodies. But I want you guys to feel capable and ready to take action. Because at the end of the day, that's all I want. I want you guys to feel better. I want you guys to do better. A rising tide raises all boats. And that's all I have for you guys. I want to thank you for spending this 30 minutes. Of course, I'm going to obviously use my Opus clips and chop this up into little bitsy pieces to cover, a month's worth of content, because that's powerful. But I want you to remind you guys to go to the Stand store, Broken But Built Stand store, and take advantage of the program. There was a lot of time, blood, tears, sweat went into it, and I want you guys to take advantage of it. All right. As always, like, subscribe, share. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.